And let's have a little look at the Tab Mini C, and yeah, here it is. Yeah, so I was trying to answer the question recently, what is the ideal e-ink tablet for travel? At Easter I made that video, it's gone down really well, so thanks very much for that. I came to the conclusion that probably the Nova Air line was the one to go for, the Nova Air line. This sort of size, 7.8 inch screen, e-ink screen, it's absolutely fabulous. However, interestingly, most of the time whilst I was traveling, what I actually did whenever I wanted to look something up or even just read something quickly was I pulled out my phone, and my phone is a Z Fold 3. This is the one I tend to use. It's really, it's an excellent phone because it has that big screen in the middle. So you've got this amazing computer essentially in your pocket. And I took the Nova Airline, and actually it was one of the ones that I pulled out least. So recently I've switched over to the Jelly 2E, which I made a video about this, using this and being kind of conscious about how I was using tech. And really I think that, well, I've come to the conclusion I've actually bitten the bullet and gone back to the main phone, because I just, it didn't really do it for me, that phone. It was excellent. I really liked the whole idea of it, and it did get me thinking again about tech. But really what I'm thinking now is I would love an e-ink phone, and maybe that's the future for me. Maybe having the big phone where you have an OLED screen on the front and you open it out to have a big e-ink screen with a pen stylus that you can then write on inside would be incredible. And we're getting there with this. This Tab Mini C is similar in terms of it's got some powerful computing specs. It's not quite up there with that, but it's similar in terms of what I would want that interior screen to be. And thinking about this screen and using it for a few days, I almost use it like that interior screen on that phone. And I even type in this way where I've got two thumbs on a keyboard, just automatically. That's how it happened. And when I use X-Tiles on here, when I type into Quick Notes on here, just like I do on the phone, that it was an incredibly natural experience going to this sort of size, and it lends itself to using apps more than the Nova Air did. And so this is really interesting. Maybe this could be the one, this small tablet could be one of the ones that I actually take with me to the US this summer. It could actually be the best e-ink tablet for travel. So stay tuned for a bit of an update on that e-ink tablet for travel just coming up this summer. In this one, it's the Tab Mini. It is different to the Nova. It's got that GPU that's going to have a hit on the battery. It's not going to be the best battery performance out there. And it is different, obviously, to the Tab Ultra C. And so when I first got the Nova Air, I honestly wasn't that keen. I was a bit like, why would I use this when there's the Note Air 2 available as well? And really, it took me a while to get into this tablet until I got into using Kindle on it and using side by side. And I've already seen somebody's asked for Kindle and how does that work on it. So let's fire straight in with the Kindle. Why not? What have I been reading recently? I'm still finishing off the Epic there. But as you can see, it's now the Kindle app is actually doing as the Kindle Scribe does. And you actually have access to your send to Kindle Word documents that come through as little PDFs. As you can see, it looks really, really great, actually. So let's fire into Epic Classroom, and then I'll have a little look at the Economist as well, if that's still there, because I thought I'd cancelled that. And the other thing that I noticed was actually you had your notebooks. Yeah, there they are. You have access now within the Kindle app. If you're a Kindle Scribe user, you have access to all of your notebooks. So this could become a really nice companion to the Kindle Scribe if you're somebody who has gone down and looked at that. I chucked my Kindle Scribe into the hands of a 9-year-old that visited, and he actually really, really enjoyed drawing on it. So, and this is one of my drawings here. So yeah, the Kindle works really, really nicely. And so what I was really doing was I was reading lots of Kindle Unlimited documents with a notebook side by side. And I think that that's the only really way that side by side makes sense on this size of screen, because it's too small to really use two apps side by side, in my opinion. Maybe this Tab Mini C has actually cracked it, whereby it's actually big enough to have two apps, or maybe it's better for using apps therefore because of that color screen. But I've had a couple of questions about why does it come with this pen rather than the one with the eraser, which I think is a very interesting one. It's worth me acknowledging that. Well, I think the one with the eraser is it's almost like too big for it. It doesn't make any sense of that. Of course it does fit. If you've got the Pen2 Pro, then it does fit. It's perfectly fine. It will still clasp within the case that they've done, which I'm glad to see they've gone back to this style of case with the flip cover here to stop you losing the pen. But it just does sort of make more sense with this pen without that eraser, because it is a little bit smaller, it's also a little bit lighter, is another thing that I would say about that as well. I also had a couple of people ask me recently about the pen that they often see me using, which has this orange tip. I think that this was a limited edition when they first released the Pen2 Pro, so I don't think you can actually buy this one at this point. Anyway, first one, Voya's often mentioned that it actually comes quite creaky in a way, although it's sort of settled down and I don't really notice it, and I still do use this Pen2 Pro as my main one. And yes, that eraser, if you do have a Pen2 Pro, yes, that eraser works just fine here on the Tab Mini C. I just think it's that same size that didn't really work for me for apps before, but now it works because of the color screen as well as a sort of app place. And you can see I've got Amazon on there. I had a nice session shopping for some extra bits and bobs for my boy's birthday, which is coming up soon, and used this instead of that Z Fold 3 interior screen and really enjoyed working on it like that. There's been a request for the keyboard, so I will go ahead and download that just now, because one thing I was thinking that it lacks is the sort of swipe text as well. The Boox keyboard is really quite good and does work at this size, and I think the more I use it, the more I try and get used to using the voice recognition, because the voice recognition is very good, and the pen recognition as well, because that is also the handwriting recognition is also very good as well. And I must say the handwriting recognition is good in this sort of mode here, this simple keyboard mode. It isn't so good in the Notes app, funnily enough, which is an odd thing to say, but I do tend to, I end up writing like this on this tablet, because it is this small. I end up writing in this kind of two thumb, like the old BlackBerry style of typing out things. And yes, I'd like to see the swipe thing there. We're going to settings in here, and I certainly enabled Gboard as a sort of general thing to do. That's popped up there as well. I did enable Gboard on all of my Boox tablets at first because I was so used to swiping like this, and it works just fine. As you can quite plainly see there, it works absolutely fine. I actually don't prefer the Google Gboard voice recognition. I see it as being less accurate than the Boox, although it seems to be doing quite well this time. And you need to sort of say period, full stop, and new line, whereas actually the Boox seems to do quite well with actually coming up with the punctuation, and this doesn't really do that. When I look back and review stuff that the Google keyboard has actually transposed for me, I find often that I have to do a lot more work in the actual editing phase than I do with the Boox keyboard. You can see it's just sort of come through as one long kind of bit of text there, whereas if I switch into the Boox, I actually find that the Boox keyboard is generally a little bit better for sort of making up its own punctuation in a sort of artificial intelligence way. Let's see if it does that or if it lets me down this time. Yeah, you see now it's putting punctuations quite well there. Is it going to space that out again? Yeah, I think that's quite nice. I hope that's coming through well on the camera there. It's probably quite small there as well. So there we go. Yeah, I would like to see Boox actually go ahead and sort of enable swipe on this part of the keyboard. That would make it then sort of, nothing's going to be perfect, but it would make it a really, really useful all-rounder with no reason to use any other keyboard. They've done a fantastic job of improving that in the time that I have been using Boox. Here's a question: is Tab Ultra C's battery life better than the Ultras? No, I think it's slightly worse, but both the Ultra and the Ultra C are not the ones to go for battery life. If you want an A5 device, Boox, and you want it to have great battery life, stick with the Note lineup. That is the one to go for battery life. That's why they're still there. The Samsung S Pens should work just fine because they're the Wacom EMR stylus. I'm lining up a bit of a stylus comparison live stream coming your way soon. I hope you'll look at that. I'm sure Scribe will work great. I too love tech with the ability to write on. This is someone else who has a Z Fold 3. Yeah, an Eink for reading for sure. I just find I can't read for long periods of time on an OLED screen. Could you use the Mini as an external monitor for the Fold? Probably, if you use the right app. I don't think you can sort of directly plug it in and use it almost like a DeX mode, but you certainly can use it as an external monitor for a computer. So there must be ways to use things like Space Desk apps for that.